Okay, we're rolling. Rolling.
Ta-da.
Get this train a going.
Yeah.
It's almost May.
Ride.
I know. Almost May 1st.
You know, I don't know where. I don't know where that came from. That may have just aged. You know,
Right? No, I think it's come across generations.
yeah, it's probably. I think it was before my generation.
Oh yeah,
that's
Rawhide?
early early 70s, maybe late 80s.
I think it was 60s.
60s.
I think it's one of those ones that's come down across the generations.
Yeah,
Probably thanks to Willie Nelson, because he's crossed generations and people think about Ghost Riders in the Sky. So episode, what even are we on? Season 4, episode 1,000,009.
15.
Oh,
I think this is episode 15.
15. All right. Going It Alone. Is that what we're talking about? What are you talking about today, Mark? What's been going on?
I'm going to update everyone on my own challenge. Again, like I've been talking about the last couple of weeks, I do a challenge on my own just to keep to dive back into and remember what I was up against and just, you know, remind myself. Not only that, but it also encourages me to understand how things have changed over the course of time. So here's a fun fact and an update. Number one, just to recap everyone. So my goal was to save $3,000 over 90 days, saving $500 every 2 weeks. So I made my first deposit into my savings. First $500 was saved. I went back and I looked at my finances. I think I told you guys last week that excuse me, I recognized that Saturday is when I typically go to the big box stores.
Yes.
So I've also retooled my envelope system for anyone that I don't know if I've said this or not, but my envelope system and having a cash in envelopes and stuffing envelopes is a core function of my finances, and it has been for 10 years. And over the last couple years, after I got out of debt, I've kind of dropped off from that. Is not as much as, not completely, but certainly. So I went back. I got all my notebooks. I re-updated them. Redid their ledger sheets, and I'm tracking all of the cash that comes into that. As a result, if you're listening to this has cut down on my debit card transactions. Right now, I only have 9 debit card transactions from the beginning of the month. Now, that's not. I don't think that that's good. I have seen that. I have had. So my record number of uses of my debit card in a month is 2, and I'm trying to beat that. I'm trying to get. The only reason why it's 2, Jennifer, do you want to know why it was only
Probably
2?
something that has to be paid that way.
No, number one, I forgot my envelope system when I walked out the door. And the other one was, I think I end up buying some. I don't know what the other one was.
So there are places that don't take cash.
Yeah, you know what? Good point. I just went through a session with a client or a lead that they were talking about that because they asked about the envelope system. Fun fact: I went down to a local pro hockey
event. Yes,
I think I told you this. That and
I'm just thinking about the one here.
Yeah, and I went $200, $300 in my pocket for dinner for it's drink and stuff like that. Went to the concession stand during the first period break.
You went to the Stars game?
I went to the Stars game. I know. I refuse to say Stars. The reason why, oh my gosh, this is going to get me in trouble for anyone in Dallas listening to this. I am an Avalanche fan, the Colorado Avalanche fan. Okay, arch rivals to the Dallas Stars. They have had our number for the last 3 years. And by the way, I think this year is completely different, just like I thought the last 3 years. So
but you can't use cash there, right? You
What's
can't
that?
use cash there.
Yeah, so I went to the concession stand, ordered a bunch of stuff, and pulled out my cash. And lo and behold, guess what? They don't take cash at the concession stands. And
And you can't pay cash at the parking. You have to scan and
Correct.
do so. And I don't want to get too in the weeds, but that is something that I'm sure you have to talk about with your clients so that you don't derail, but you plan ahead and know this.
yeah, one of those things that I do talk about, not to completely control the conversation in the beginning here, is take your debit card with you. Just leave it in the car. If you need it, then or leave it where it's secured. I probably shouldn't have said leave it in the car. That's probably not secure.
With your gun.
But just bring it
with
with you.
your gun. Jesus.
If you do have something like that, so if you do have something like that, disclaimer: I'm not responsible for any of your lost or stolen.
Keep it with you. Just keep it like in the padlock. Lance, what's been going on with you?
That's how Mark.
Oh, wait, I can't hear you. Where'd you go? There you go. Sorry. You look like
Can you hear me?
today. Yeah,
Can or cannot?
I can now. By the way, you look like Mel Gibson today. I think.
Thank you. All right. Blessing. All right. What was I talking about, Mark?
What have you done this week?
Had a couple lot of closings this week. It's been pretty busy. Interest rates got normalized again. We're below 6, so a
They're
lot of
not
business.
at the bottom. They're down at 2. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Everyone's
the
crying.
all-time bottom. The running joke if you're new to the show.
Yeah.
So I had an issue this week with the closing and the port. I always recommend people to wire their funds for the closing a couple of days ahead of time. And I had an issue on $1.5 million closing yesterday, where they wanted to wire their money the day of, and it doesn't work. And they understood. Oh, the banking system says if I put it in, it'll be there. And I'm like, they might, but that doesn't mean that the place you're sending it from will. They'll put it in an overnight sweep, and I don't know if people on here know what that means in banking, what a sweep means. So imagine you're a big bank with a bank with a big tall building in a downtown city, and there's a big neon light in green. And the deposits for their day, they're typically not realized until the next morning. And so what happens is, if you're a big bank, maybe in 17 states, and you have several $100 million in deposits in a day, which is very possible, you can overnight trade that. You can deposit it someplace that will pay you interest overnight, and that's called a sweep. And the next morning it comes back in. So anyway, that also happens when you go to wire your money. Sometimes it goes into the wire holding account. Just make sure everything's all right. And wires typically aren't $5 or $10; they're usually pretty large. So anyway, my client was very disappointed to know that the funds weren't there, and of course they still wanted to close. But you can't do that, Jennifer. That would be called what?
Fraud? I don't know.
Fraud?
It'd be called a dry closing, which is
dry closing. Okay. Yeah, because I've never
the
done
money's
it.
not there. It's very risky. It doesn't happen much anymore.
Yeah.
I like how we immediately go to the negative.
Fraud. So I worked in a bank when I managed bookstores to put myself through college, but for a brief period, I had a manager who was sexually harassing me. So I worked in a bank non-encoding department processing float money, which is the money that the bank invests overnight. So, and it was large money. One of them was one of the professional baseball teams. One of them was the payroll for one of the professional baseball teams in Ohio.
Yeah.
Wow.
To that kind of money. So, what else, Lance? Anything?
That's what we were talking about. I have another client that's closing next week, and we were talking. There's some gift funds involved, and one of the things with gift funds is don't ever, send the money to the title company, because if you deposit it into your bank account, it opens up. It's called sourcing. It opens up just a disaster.
Yes.
The people watching or listening, not a disaster as in it's going to kill the deal. It just makes it uncomfortable for
You have to
the
do due diligence on the
borrower.
fund, on the source if it doesn't go directly to the title company.
Yep, and that rabbit hole can go deep because the older generation, which is where a lot of gift funds are coming
Yep.
from, they're going to tell you that they're not going to give you that information.
Yep.
And if they're not going to give that information, there's not going to be a loan. And
Correct.
some do,
Because they're
some
not going
don't.
to give the money.
Yep, some do, some don't. Most do, but there have been cases where like, no one's looking at my bank account. That would have been my parents. No one's looking at, nope, we're not doing it.
Yeah. Same.
So it happened. So I had a case with that where the money instead of going to the title company, it went to their bank account. And they're like, why do we have to do all this documentation? And the answer is
You didn't
because,
listen.
and not, I thought if they're watching this, that might seem rude and obtrusive, but it's not at all. I went over it so many times, just like Jennifer does in their pre-buying consultation. She says it over and over and over. Maybe even have people sign things, but it just happens constantly.
Yeah. So
All
Lance,
through my process,
yeah.
all through my process of lending, they're getting reminders of that.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm doing a transaction with Jennifer, she's giving them verbal reminders of it. I'm giving written, verbal. She's telling them, and still we get to the end and have it sometimes. So.
Yeah, we're doing everything we can for you, and you need to listen.
Well, I think that is a great segue into the topic about the emotional toll of buying a house has on people, because I think what you guys just laid out is stress.
Well, I want to share what's going on with me this week really quick.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what, Jennifer? Yes. What's going on with you? Sorry.
Well, really quick, I'm going to share this. Can you see that?
We can see that.
Yeah.
That is going to be Lance and my's view on Sunday when we do an open house from 2 to 4 at 629 Nickajack Trail in Mont Eagle. Overlooks the woods. It's a great little house. 1185 square foot, 2-bed and a flex room and 2 full baths on 0.34 of an acre for $220.
What?
Yep. Do you want to come buy a Tennessee house? And there's no HOA or anything else. So if you wanted to Airbnb it, it's so close. These are the hiking trails within a half hour. Ready? Head of the Crow State Park, which includes the Natural Bridge, the Mountain Goat Trail, the Buggy Top Trail, the Packard Hollow Trail. There's also Greeter Falls, Suter Falls, Bugby Falls, Short Springs, Foster Falls, Savage Gulch, and my family's favorite, Grundy Forest and Fiery Gizzard. And Grundy Forest and Fiery Gizzard are minutes from this.
220.
220. Buy it today, Mark.
You piqued my curiosity.
I know, right?
Yeah, that is within striking distance of being able to say, maybe there's another home, a vacation home somewhere else.
And it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous where it is. It's on a quiet street, but it's like 6 minutes to the little town. The Mountain Goat Cafe there is amazing. High Point is a French style steakhouse that was the home of Al Capone's mistress. It's where he stopped on his way from Chicago to Florida. I also got my gold award for my sales for last year. So I've got to go to the office and pick that up. And then I've got myself all set up for the Alabama MLS. So our first client had our orientation last night, and we're going to be probably looking at homes in Athens next week.
$44,000 down is 20%.
Mm-hmm.
Void PMI.
You could avoid it putting 5% down. But you didn't know that. You can do a 5% loan, not have MR. Everything's negotiable, Mark.
See, that's why I am partnered with great people like you guys.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, MI is also tax deductible now, 100% for the big beautiful bill for people that itemize. So that came up. I was in a BNI meeting this morning, and I brought that up with the financial planner, a person with Edward Jones that knows Kelly, Jennifer, and he said that is accurate. It's tax deductible if people itemize, but the way that looks like there's you can do this big hit if you want now, which is leading a lot of people to not itemize. But
yes.
Mark, a lot of people used to avoid MI. One, because it was expensive. The example I like to give is on a $500,000 loan 5 years ago, MI might have been 350,000, $300 to $350 a month. Now with good credit, it's $85 to $90 a month. So when people look at the difference it takes to put that $100,000 down, what's that $100,000 going to earn me as opposed to versus $85 a month of what is now tax deductible? So,
Lance, what is the monthly payment on
220 with 5% down?
Yeah.
But if this is his secondary home, well, no, it could be your primary home.
Yeah, it could be a primary home. You got to live in it. Don't do what our elected officials have been accused of doing and lying on your mortgage application.
Yeah, don't do that.
Principal and interest would be $1,250.
$1,250 on a 220 house with 5% down.
Yeah.
Plus tax and insurance.
Yeah.
And insurance would be, I'd estimate 200, and I don't think it's going to be that much. And taxes on this one are $458 a year.
Oh.
So when are you guys asking me, when are you coming over to Nashville to
why don't you go ahead and send over that contract?
Yeah.
Offer in. We don't have to go somewhere now.
It better be this weekend. It's a good deal.
That's an acre of land?
Mark's like, can I drive to Tennessee tomorrow?
Wait a minute. Is this, and that's on an acre of land?
No, 0.34 acre, but it backs up to secluded.
Yeah, you got to send me your post. Yeah. I'm interested in seeing that. I mean, look at this.
It's a half hour from my lake
We're actually working a deal on the podcast.
This is how it works. This is how it happens.
It's a half hour from my lake house, so you can pop down the mountain and grab one of my kayaks and jump out on the water if I'm not there.
That's right. She is at the bottom of the mountain.
So doable.
Yeah.
So doable.
Yeah. There's so much hiking. I cannot even express how much hiking there is.
So folks, thanks for joining in today. You've seen how a real estate transaction works with the lender and the client.
And go ahead, Lance. I'm sorry.
I'm done.
And when you have options because you have no debt and you have money available, this is the kind of transaction that can easily morph into reality. So
Mark didn't wake up this morning knowing that he was going to be the proud owner of a mountaintop retreat.
Man,
reality.
How close? Go ahead, Lance.
Speaking of reality, unfortunately, there's some reality shows that get played in our house too much. And last night there was a reality show on. I don't know the name of it. The idea of the reality show was, I think it's called The Trust or something like that. And there's like 12 people in a house, and they have, as time goes on, they can be voted off, or who do you trust? And ultimately somebody wins what they think is a lot of money, $250,000 paid over 20 years. Anyway, the 250, and in the trust, in the show last night, there was a very heated argument going on, because one of the people on the show, a very young man who's 22 years old, you know what I'm talking about, Jennifer?
No, because I don't watch TV.
And
we lost power 3 times yesterday.
I don't either. This is like ancillary off to the side.
Yeah.
With what vision I have left. And there was a 22-year-old on the show, nice young man, and he disclosed, or someone found out, that he was a millionaire. And in life, he had a real estate company. His mother was a realtor. She's had an agency for 20 years. And he went to college, and he obviously was under her tutelage, just like Jennifer's boys and daughters are, seeing what they do. And he, after college, or during college, went to his mom and said, "Mom, I think we can build this company." And in the first year he was there, he built the company 1,600% by instilling some business ideas and using AI and using what we're doing. But on the show, everyone, where I'm going with this, Mark, is you've saved your money. You've lived like no one else so that you can live like no one other. And those of us, if you're tuning in for the first time, Mark was $300,000 and some in debt, and he paid it off in how fast, Mark?
5.5 years.
How long?
5.5 years.
5.5 years. So there's this person on the middle block here did it. This isn't us just talking. But these people threw this person out of the house saying that he was non-deserving because he had lived a privileged life. And that I had to watch this argument for, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes of, they're like, but you're privileged and you didn't earn anything that you have. And it just bristled me because when Mark said, that's why I've lived, I've got the cash. You can do it because Mark worked his ass off. And we won't
That's
get
because you're privileged. That's
He's
why I
considered
try and get
privileged
with so
because
many.
he chose to change. He chose to change
Yes.
the narrative.
Well, that's why
I'm
we try
good
and
man.
get with so many first-time buyers. Get in and change your story.
You can do it.
Okay.
Don't listen to people telling you can't.
And use. No, I'm not tooting my own horn. I really try to stay humble about this, but I really want everyone to understand the impacts of this. If you don't think that you can pay off a $325,000 house in 5.5 years, I'm here to tell you you're wrong. Because if you look at my debt was $323,000, $501.21, and I paid it off in 63 months. $5,000 a month for 63 months. That's $315,000. Yes, it took me about 6 months to kind of figure out the plan.
Yep. And you had a good job you were working with.
I did multiple jobs. I
Yes,
mean,
that's what I wanted to say.
Okay.
It's not like you were just at a entry level job, and if you had been, you still would have had 2 or 3 entry level jobs.
I decided what was most important to me. What was most important to me was not having debt and having. I told you guys my favorite word is in the dictionary is the plural version of options. Mm-hmm. And this is exactly what it gives me. It gives me the possibility to think about, is buying a $220,000 second home to be able to leave Dallas, go over and hang out in Nashville. I have college buddies that live over there. Mm-hmm. I fully embrace the Second Amendment and it's
a tax-free state. Texas is too, though, isn't it?
Yeah, as a hobby, and those buddies and I enjoy getting together and doing those things. And so the possibility, because I have no debt and I know how to save, Lance, I think you're going to, gives me the ability to say, you know what, maybe this is a possibility. And it's reality. I have the option of thinking about it.
Yeah. And what did he say? 1250 something?
1250. That's less than I guarantee right now. I don't know of any, and I know there are, depending on the area that you live in. But most people are paying anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 per month for a rental, for an apartment, right. Or so you're talking $1,250 with 5% down. 5%. So
220 is what, 10,000, 11,000?
Yeah, times.
But here's the other thing too. So 1,250 plus taxes are 458. Let's just say 500 because it's easier for the history major. That's $12 a month tax right now. Yes. What's 458 divided by 12? 4,800 divided by 12 is what? $40?
4. It's 4.
Okay, so $4. Really?
Yep.
No, 458 divided by 12 is.
Wait.
No, it's $40.
It's $40. Yeah.
So, okay, so we're up to $1,290 with taxes and insurance. I would say put $100 for insurance a month.
Yeah. So round it out.
$1,400.
Right. $1,400.
And you're gaining equity.
And it's a second home.
Or primary for someone who is doing that.
Yeah, or primary. I mean, and so if anyone's listening to this and you're wondering, is this, first of all, I also want to point out, I was 50 years old when I started my journey.
Yeah.
I wasn't 25. I wasn't 45. I was 50 years old when I started.
Imagine if you
Yeah, I want to dive into this for a second, Jennifer,
Yeah.
because I think this is such an important part of this journey. November 16th, 2016, I was 50 years old. I went into that room and I'm a man of faith, and I lowered my head and I leaned into my faith, asking for the strength and the resilience to do what I was about ready to do.
Mm-hmm.
And when I raised my head and looked in the mirror, that was the day that I started that journey, and I never looked back. Never looked back. And at the age of 50, yes, I stopped my investments into my 401k. And anyone that's saying, "Oh my gosh, that's the stupidest thing ever," let me just finish, because this is really important.
No,
Anyone that has said, "Oh my gosh, that's the stupidest thing you could have done," let me explain something to the person that is saying that right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you think that I didn't invest for 5.5 years, you're highly, highly wrong. The bottom line is, there is not a stock, there is not a mutual fund, there is not a chart, there is not a gold bar, silver bar, Bitcoin that will ever, ever come close to the investment that I made in me.
100%.
And getting to the point where I was debt free, and I have the options of thinking about, I could put $11,000 down on a $220,000 home and walk right into that home tomorrow.
Well, and two things to that point, Mark. First of all, the clarity of being debt free and the change of your life, that has no measure, right?
Right.
But if we're just talking money for the people who are fiscally minded, what were you grossing percent-wise on your 401?
So my 401k at the time was probably anywhere from I'd have to go back 50, you know what, I'm 59. So I'd have to go back 9 years, but that would be 2017, 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we were anywhere close to where we're at right now.
Were you like 8% or
yeah, I would
9%?
say probably anywhere from 7 to 9% would be an average.
Okay, so 7 to 9%, and you had credit card debt.
I had over $100,000 in credit card debt.
If you added it all up together, what was your average interest you were paying on your credit card debt?
Oh my God, anywhere from probably 19% to 26%.
So again, history major, but I've got $100 that I'm putting into my 401k and I'm making 8% on that, or I have $100 that I'm knocking down debt that I'm paying 20% or more on. It seems to me knocking off that debt is overall better for my financial picture. And then as far as paying off the house, your mortgage rate was probably lower than the 8% that you were getting on your 401.
Yep.
But your equity rise over the years cumulatively is going to be the same or better. And it's not like you were staying out of 401. As soon as this was addressed, you went back to your 401 and you're investing, right?
100%.
And we're able to do more and make up for probably all of that. But again, none of that happens without discipline. None of it. If you go in and you pay off your debt and you quit paying your 401 and then you come out of it and you don't go back to your 401 and you don't go back to measured envelopes and all the things, it's all for naught.
Exactly. I'm very adamant when I say, if you're going to pause your investments into your retirement, just like I did, and you start investing in yourself and you're not committed to this, I'm going to tell you right now, don't stop your investment into your 401k. This journey about investing in yourself is not for the heart, the faint of heart. This is hard. Getting out of debt and changing behaviors that I learned for 50 years, well, not 50 years, call it 30 years, was difficult. Look, guys, I grew up in the 80s when we were told at 18, go get credit cards.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we were also told student loan debt is not bad debt, it's good debt. Well, guess what? I lived that for 30 years. I carried my student loan debt for anywhere from 30 to 32 years because I was told this is good debt. However, every single time I went to go do something, I was told you've got student loans.
Right.
And
That's what's holding you back. That's what's
holding you back. And by
back.
the way, I had $85,000 in student loans between my bachelor's degree and my master's degree. I'll be more than happy to share some of the stupidest decisions that I made about money. But,
Can I ask you, Mark, because you probably have the number. You had $85,000 in student loan debt that you took out. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, no, that was over a course of time. But
how much did you take out?
Oh my gosh, probably
like
around
40,000,
60 to 65,000 by the time.
And you ended up paying back 85,000 or more.
Yeah,
right? and
here
that's what we see all the time. That's so frustrating to Lance and I. That one client that we had that we worked with for 4 years, it was her student loan that was killing her.
Yeah,
and she wasn't in a job that needed to have spent that. The salary was not reciprocal with the.
One of the reasons, Jennifer, one of the reasons why I can't answer the specifics about that you're asking on my debt and stuff like that is because I didn't care about it. Honestly, I didn't.
Yeah.
I decided that, you know what, the number I had in front of my face on November 16th, 2016 was $323,501.21. And it was in the form of multiple credit cards with balances far greater than $15,000. Yes, it included 2 rental properties, but the rental properties and the amount that I had on the rental properties was not even the highest debt.
Yeah.
Isn't
that crazy?
Yeah.
That you had unsecured debt that was higher than your secured equity gaining debt.
Exactly. And so but that's an example of where my debt really took off was I was buying assets, or what I thought were assets, to get myself out of debt. But what I was doing was I call it building my debt.
Yeah.
And then I call it my 5.5 journey dismantling my debt. And that's how we speak, how I look at it. But I just really want to lean into the fact that if you think that this is not an investment because you pause your 401k and you start attacking debt, I'm here to tell you you're wrong.
Right.
You're making the best investment right now. Knowing that I can live my life with no debt on an amount that people would go, oh my gosh, how are you actually living on that amount? I'm living on that amount, and I'm doing more things than most people do with 6-figure salaries because I have no debt.
You're going to Stars games.
Yeah, I'm going to Stars games. I'm going on vacations. I'm thinking
about Tennessee houses.
I have the assets, and I'm not tooting my horn. No. But I'm trying to lay this out so that people understand. If you go through this journey and you do these things, and let me also, and I know I'm probably grabbing too much of the time here, but one of the things that you will discover in this journey is more about who you are and the strength, the inner strengths that you have that you never ever thought. I never understood. This is a guy. A lot of my debt was built through loneliness. That's I'm a single man, I always thought when I went out, if I pay for this, if I go for this, if I do for that, everyone around me is going to rally, and I'm going to be, quote, the life of the party. That kind of behavior took me into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. Let me buy another more rental property because that's going to be attractive to the next person. My mindset, my whole demeanor shifted the minute that I started focusing on me. And out of this
You think that you
journey,
found your value?
yeah, and oh my gosh, yeah, out of this
That's
journey, my relationship with my faith, and I'm a Catholic. I have no problems that, you know, my faith in Jesus Christ has grown immensely. It was through him that he helped me discover the man that I found during this journey. I'm a
Yeah.
man of tenacity. I'm a man of perseverance. I'm a man of commitment, and I'm a man of discipline.
Mhm.
And if you think for 1 minute that these things are going to get, you know, the enemy, Psalm 23:5. If you think for 1 minute that debt gets a seat at my table, I'm going to tell you right now that plate gets removed, and the person and that thing gets picked up by the collar and tossed out. And that is the kind of coach that you need.
Yeah.
You got me on my soapbox,
I
because
was just thinking you
am.
better watch out for those honeypot scams that are going to be hitting you.
It's very personal. This stuff is very personal, and I'm so dedicated and committed to this because of exactly what we went through on this call, that I have the option of being able to say, what if I throw $15,000 onto this and use my equity and my assets to finalize a deal and pick up a vacation home in an area where I have a bunch of college buddies that I enjoy doing my hobbies with?
Mm-hmm.
If you're listening to this, give me a call because I want to help you. That's my transaction.
Perfect.
Yes, that's my if you, oh my God, what is he doing? Sell? Yes, I am selling you. That's because I want this same feeling for you on the other side of whatever challenge in your finances you're finding. Now I'll shut up, and I've taken up enough of this.
No, you're fine, but we do probably need to wrap up for the day. And I do want to say that next week I'm probably going to talk a little bit. We may have a special guest, but one of the next times that we all speak, I want to talk about for sale by owner. You know, Tim has a unique house that he was able to promote well to the community that was in. And I think that he'll be able to straighten out the contract, but it's similar to a contract I've seen someone else take that really got them in a mess doing a for sale by owner. So I'd like to talk a little bit about, you know, last time, Mark, you talked a lot about what the difference is working with a coach. Yeah. And a lot of people don't sometimes see the value of a coach. And a lot of people don't see the value of the realtor because there's a lot of realtors that don't show their value, you know. They never go to the house when their buyer is putting in an offer on it. The buyer goes to an open house, and then they don't even bother to come to the inspection, and they may show up for the final walkthrough, or they may tell their buyer they don't need one. And I would say, why are you collecting that paycheck? What have you done for your person? Now, there may be things they've done I haven't seen, but as a listing agent, what are you doing? You know, I put out probably a dozen flyers on community boards because it's a small town that those flyers would be seen. And I'm not going to necessarily do that in Nashville, but I put out probably a dozen flyers on community boards in Monteagle and Suwanee, which are the two towns close to each other and close to this house. There's other things I've been doing, but showing your value. And I think that there are a lot of people who, like, you know, Lance, paying off debt. What do you pay off? And I know that's your wheelhouse, Mark, but Lance knows that there are ways to do it that improve your credit score.
Yes.
That, oh, I'm going to buy a house in 2 years, so I'm going to start doing this. Well, stop. Get someone who knows what they're doing. Get someone to partner with you in your specific case study situation. So with that, I'm probably going to wrap it up. My phone's been beeping a lot at me, so I got to find out what else happening.
I think you're right, Jennifer. When someone has $2,500 a month in rent, when they have $25 a month in a mortgage, they live their lives very differently. Mm-hmm. When they make that shift, there's a different way of looking at your life, and
it's never
not
too
the same.
No, never too late to start. I started when I was 50 years old.
However, that doesn't mean you should wait till you're 50 if you're 25 or 30 now. Where would you be if you did it now? So that's that too.
And you don't, anyone that thinks, oh, I'm behind. No, you're not. Because if you're younger than 50, that's how many years ahead of me you are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure. All right.
All right.
Till next
Let's
time.
get this thing off.
Jennifer
I'll
sent
send
me
you
a
the
list.
link.
I want to check that out.
I'll send you it. You can watch the walkthrough video.